Well, hello. I wanted to give you some practical advice when it comes to answering questions on the PSSA. So for the next few lessons, we're going to do a little PSSA prep, and I'm going to do some actual former PSSA questions and show you just how to think through. You're not going to see these exact questions, but you'll see some that are similar. And I want you to have at least a little bit of knowledge on how to think through these and start answering them. Now, the first part of the math portion of the PSSA is actually going to be without a calculator, but it's only 5 problems. It's not much, and then from then on you can use a calculator. So for this little lesson, we're going to do the questions, some questions that we're not allowed to use a calculator on, and let me just show you how to think through this. So this question asks you which expression has a value between -4 and -3. Now, first of all, don't be afraid to use your scratch paper or to write in your question booklet. Never write in the answer one other than to put your answers and those kinds of things. But so we're asked to figure out which one of these is going to be between -4 and -3. So what we've got to do here is we've got to recognize that these symbols are the square root. And this is where memorizing your square root facts is really helpful. So sometimes what you might want to do is when you're facing something like this, really quick, just write down a bunch of the perfect squares. For instance, let's see, if we write down 1 squared, well, that's not going to really help you because it's 1, but 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared, we'll stop there for now, see if we need any more while we're working this problem, is 25. Okay, so we want to take a look at this, and we're going to have to just come up with guesstimates and see if we can come up with a guesstimate that is between -4 and -3. So we have 1 minus 2 times the square root of 10. So the square root of 10 is just a little bit bigger than 9, right? 10 is a little bit bigger than 9, so our square root is just a little bit bigger than 3. So this would be 1 minus 3, I don't know, point something, okay? It's going to be like, let's just say, for giving it a number, 3.1. But it's not going to be more than 3.5 even, you know, but that would be making it really big, because it's a lot closer to 9, that 10, than it is to 16, right? So you know it's just a tiny bit more than 3. So 1 minus 3 something is going to give us -2 something, right? So that's not going to be big enough. And I really just, like I said, mark it up, work it out. All right, let's take a look at the next one. 4 minus, now it's the square root of 15, so over here you can see my square root, 4 squared is 16, so it's just slightly bigger than 4. No, slightly smaller than 4, sorry. 15 is smaller than 4, right? So we're actually talking about subtracting 3 point, I don't know what, maybe 9, 3 point something. All right, almost 4, but not quite. Well, that's going to give us pretty close. I should really do squigglies on my equals, okay? That's going to give us something pretty close to 0, okay? Around 0, so that's not it. Now, like I said before, this was 2 times the square root of 10. This one is 3 times the square root of 5. So let's see, 3. The square root of 5, well, let's see. 5 is, just a tiny bit bigger than 4. So you're going to be subtracting a little bit bigger, multiplying a little bit bigger than 2. Again, I'm just going to say 2.1 for lack of anything else. And then you would subtract 7. So this is going to give us something like, let's say 3 times 2 is 6. Again, if you don't know, like, do it over here, a little scratch paper. We're just guesstimating at it. 2.1, it really doesn't matter, but 3 times that, so we got 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6, so around 6 point something, okay? Around 6 point something minus 7. Well, that's going to give us, that's less than 1, right? -1. Less than -1. All right, if this was a 6, it would be less negative 1. Well, that's not what they're saying. It's not between negative 4 and negative 3. So after all that, the last one must be the right answer. But let's just double check and play with it. Negative 20, or I'm sorry, square root of 20. Well, oh, that's right between 4 and 5, right? Square root of 20 is almost halfway between 16 and 25. So I'm going to say the square root of 20 is around 4.5. All right, this is all around, and we're going to subtract 8. And if you want to do it this way, you can do 8 minus 4.5, but remember, our sign will be negative because our bigger number of these two is the negative one, okay, is the one that's being subtracted. So let's see, 7, and that becomes, all right, carry the 1, subtract 5 from that. Hey, we got something, it almost, some estimate here between negative 4 and negative 3. So, like I said, play around with them, and this is where it really helps you to know certain things by heart. And there you go, there is the answer. We were right. All right, now this one. A company makes a puzzle that is made up of 5 cubed small plastic cubes. 5 to the third, all right? 5 cubed. The puzzles are shipped, and let me just, first of all, let me box that in. That's an important thing. 5 to the cube. The puzzles are shipped in boxes, each containing 5 squared puzzles, and the boxes are loaded into trucks that each contain 5 cubed boxes. What is the total number of small plastic cubes in each truck? So, we have 5 cubed of the cubes. That's how many cubes we have. We have 5 squared puzzles. And we have 5 cubed boxes. All right. So, the 5 cubes is how many cubes in a puzzle, right? Right? Each 5 cubed in a puzzle, in one puzzle. 5 squared puzzles in each box. And 5 cube boxes in a truck, per one truck. All right, so what we've got to do is we've got to multiply each of these numbers. Now, since we're not using a calculator, this is where you've got to know, remember your exponent rules. And remember, exponents are shortcuts for multiplying many, many times. So when we want to multiply 5 cubed times 5 squared times 5 cubed, what you have to do is you have to add those exponents. So actually, this very hard looking problem comes down to being able to add 3 plus 2 plus 3, which gives us 8, which is the answer, 5 to the 8th. So make sure you are up on the basic exponent rules too. And there's the answer. Now once again I have another problem where knowing our square roots and perfect squares is really helpful. So we want to know, it says solve x squared equals 144. Now, in our class, we have not emphasized this, so I need to let you know that, think about this, you can see x squared means that what number times itself will give us 144. Well, you know yourself, you don't need to do this on paper to know 72 times 72 is not going to give you 144. This is not, you divide, okay? We're not saying multiply 2 times the x. It is multiply x times itself. That is x squared. So that's what we need. So this, right away, you can look at those two and know those are out. Don't fall for it. Now, the other two are exactly the same answers, except one says plus or minus and one has nothing. And let me show you why plus or minus is the right choice. If you have two positive 12s, 12 times 12, you've got two positive numbers, gives you a positive answer. Okay? But if you have two negative numbers times each other, okay, that's negative 12 times negative 12, you also get a positive answer. So even though we haven't emphasized this in our class, I wanted you to know and be aware that that answer is the correct one, as you can see there. All right, let's take a look at this one. The thickness of the skin on a human back is about 3 times 10 to the negative 3 meters. All right, we know that's going to be an important thing to know. So right now I'm just going to kind of box that in. The thickness of the skin on a human eyelid is about 3 times 10 to the negative 4th meters. Notice these are very similar numbers. They're just different by the exponents. How many times as thick is the skin on the human back as on the human eyelid? Well, we are only moving our decimal point one place between these two, right? 3 times 10 to the negative 4th and 3 times 10 to the negative 3. So it's one decimal point. How many times as thick? So they're saying the thicker skin, all right? This is actually the bigger number because at negative exponents, you go backwards, okay? You have to think a little bit backwards. So we know that the thickness on your back is thicker than your eyelid. How many times as thick? This is where you got to use your common sense. All right, we're moving one decimal point. When we move by one decimal point to the bigger, we are moving by 10. All right, so this is very, use your logic. Use your logic, and there's the answer. All right, last one we're going to do. Now, hopefully you can remember your PEMDAS. And again, use the room, all right, to write your PEMDAS out so you don't forget. And when you write your PEMDAS out, we'll do something like this. PEMD together, AS together. Parentheses, exponents. Multiplication, division from left to right. Addition, subtraction from left to right. So let's see what we got here. We have parentheses. We have 3 sets of them. So the first thing we're going to do is solve our parentheses. So inside of parentheses, we have 15 minus 7. You can do that, I hope, in your head. That's 8. All right. That leaves us with 8 squared. Then inside the next set of parentheses, we have 2 times 2, which is 4. And that is also squared. Don't forget to subtract here. We're going to copy down our minus sign. Our last set of parentheses is 4 plus 3, which is 7. All right, we did our parentheses. Let's take a look. Do we have exponents? We sure do. We got 2 of them. So this is, again, you've got to know some of your exponent, or your perfect squares and how to do them. Well, and if you don't, 8 times 8 is what you got to think of. And hopefully you know that 8 times 8 is 64. But again, work it out on a piece of scratch paper if you need to. But this is a number that you should hopefully have memorized. So it's 64. And 4 squared, that's 4 times 4, is 16. And when we're done doing that, we're going to subtract 7. So now we've done our exponents. Do we have any multiplication or division? Nope, don't need to do it. But we do have addition and subtraction from left to right. 64, let's do this. 64 plus 16. 4 plus 6 is 10, carry the 1. 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. Now we're going to subtract 7. That gives us 73. There we go, we found it. Like I said, this is important stuff for you to have a couple of these things on your own, but you only have a few problems to do without a calculator. From now on, calculators are allowed, and we'll be able to do that. So practice over some of these. You can even go online and find a few and just give them a try. And just be aware when you're working on it. Take your time, don't rush, and think it through. You can do it.